I'm Gloria Allred, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Gloria, and I'm Randy Hansen. In world news headlines today, Greek protests spread as Parliament okays austerity measures. And up to 300,000 protest in Portugal. In Belgium, firefighters spray water on police at anti-austerity protest. An expanded role for U.S. Special Operations Forces sought. An Arab League calls for peacekeepers in Syria. And Romney narrowly beats Paul in Maine, wins CPAC straw poll. And Obama's budget includes new taxes on millionaires, cuts to Medicare. And Catholic leaders oppose Obama's compromise on birth control. And death toll of U.S. contractors in Afghanistan on rises. And Pakistani Prime Minister indicted on contempt charges. And Pakistani minister says U.S. drones are counterproductive. 5 more arrested in Murdoch newspaper in bribery case, and Republican congressman faces ethics probe over insider trading allegations. And new president of Maldives rejects call for elections, and Mohammed Nasheed has vowed to keep pushing for democracy in Maldives. And Shining Path leader detained in Peru. GVTV News would like to say the views expressed on our news broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views of NCTV Digital Media Center. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, Greek police have detained at least 130 people after a night of unrest following Greek lawmakers' passage of a controversial package of austerity measures in exchange for a European Union International Monetary Fund bailout. Greek lawmakers agreed to fire 15,000 public employees, cut the minimum wage by 22%, and cut pension plans. Vote took place as 100,000 people protested outside parliament buildings. Greece coalition government expelled 43 deputies for voting against the deal. Police said 150 shops are looted in the capital and 48 buildings were set ablaze after the vote. Major protests were held in other parts of Europe. In Portugal, as many as 300,000 packed Lisbon's Palace Square in the largest rally against austerity and economic hardship since the country resorted to a European Union International Monetary Fund bailout last May. And in Belgium, several hundred firefighters sprayed police officers with freezing cold water during anti-austerity protests. The firefighters also hosed down the Prime Minister's office in protest to the government's plans to raise the retirement age. The New York Times is reporting the nation's top special operations officer is seeking the authority to deploy special forces anywhere in the world without normal Pentagon oversight. As part of the plan, Admiral William McRaven wants special operations forces to expand their presence in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. McRaven also wants authority to quickly move his units to potential hotspots without going through the standard Pentagon process governing overseas deployments. The Arab League has called for the United Nations Security Council to send peacekeepers to Syria. In addition, the Arab League passed a resolution to provide all forms of political and material support to the Syrian opposition. This comes after another violent weekend in Syria. Syrian military is reportedly continuing to shell the city of Homs. Meanwhile, Syrian government has blamed the opposition for the deadly bombing in the city of Aleppo Friday that killed 28 people just outside a Syrian security compound. On Saturday, a top Syrian general was assassinated in a residential neighborhood of Damascus. The New York Times reports arms are pouring into Syria from Iraq and the Middle East nations as the fighting in Syria escalates into the regional conflict. Over the weekend, Ayman Zawahiri called on Muslims to support Syrian rebels. In addition, Amnesty International organized a global day of action and solidarity for the protesters in Syria and across the Middle East. And it said, so this is happening across the world, 16 cities, not just Europe and North America, but in Asia, Africa, Latin America, telling the people of Syria that we know you are going through very difficult times. Your rights are being violated. We are with you. In campaign news, Maine Republican Party has declared Mitt Romney to be the winner of the state caucus after he beat Ron Paul in just 194 votes. Paul's team is claiming it could still win the caucus because one county postponed its caucus due to a snowstorm. Meanwhile, Romney beats Rick Santorum in a straw poll of attendees at the Conservative Political Action Committee conference. Santorum accused Romney of rigging the vote. Numerous reports have emerged indicating Romney bussed college students to the conference and paid the registration fees for supporters. On Friday, Romney addressed CPAC attendees and said, I spent 25 years balancing budgets, eliminating waste, and by the way, keeping as far away from government as humanly possible. I did some things very conservatism is designed for. I started new businesses, turned around broken ones, and I'm not ashamed to say that I was successful in doing it. President Obama will release the election year budget, he did do that raises taxes on millionaires, $6 billion for job-creating infrastructure projects, and commits $4 trillion in deficit reduction over 10 years. Obama's budget will also repeat the call for $360 billion in reductions to Medicare and Medicaid. And Catholic Church leaders are vowing to fight President Obama's controversial birth control insurance coverage policy despite his compromise that religious employees would not have to offer free contraceptives for workers. Under a compromise announced on Friday, Obama said religious employees could opt out of providing the coverage, but their workers could then ask their insurance companies for that benefit, and the company would be required to provide it free of charge. And President Obama said the result will be the religious organizations won't have to pay for these services, and no religious institution will have to provide these services directly. Let me repeat that these employees will not have to pay for or provide contraceptive services, but women who work at these institutions will have access to free contraceptive services just like other women. And new government figures have revealed more civilian contractors working for U.S. companies died in Afghanistan than U.S. soldiers last year. At least 430 employees of the American contractors were reportedly killed in 2010, but the analysis say the true number of contractor deaths may be much higher. In comparison, 418 U.S. soldiers died in Afghanistan last year. According to the Pentagon, that's about 113,000 defense contractors in Afghanistan and 90,000 U.S. soldiers. And Pakistani Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani has been indicted on contempt charges after the Pakistani Supreme Court accused him of repeatedly ignoring the High Court orders of to revive long-standing corruption proceedings against President Asif Ali Zardari. If convicted, Gilani would be barred from holding office for 5 years and could serve up to 6 months in prison. And hundreds of Pakistanis held a protest Sunday against U.S. drone strikes. Protesters burned an effigy of President Obama. In related news, Pakistan Foreign Minister has publicly warned U.S. drone strikes inside Pakistan are counterproductive and leading to the radicalization of many Pakistanis. Hini Rabbani Kar made the comment on an interview on TV channel in Russia Today, and he said, in our view, drones are not only completely illegal and unlawful, but have no authorization to be used within the domain of international law, but even more importantly, they are counterproductive to your objective of getting this region rid of militancy and terrorism and extremism, because one strike leads to getting your target number 1 and target number 3 today. You are creating 5 more targets and 10 more targets in militancy that you breed from doing this. The people will join their ranks. Basically, that's what he said. Business news and phone hacking scandal at Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation is growing. On Saturday, British authorities arrested 8 people, including 5 employees of Murdoch's newspaper, The Sun. Arrest came as part of an investigation into bribery of public officials by journalists. Murdoch could face legal problems in the United States for violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which criminalizes payment of bribes to public officials by American companies overseas. Republican Representative Spencer Bachus of Alabama is facing congressional ethics probe to determine if he violated insider trading laws. Bachus is chair of the House Financial Services Committee. Washington Post is reporting Bachus made numerous trades in recent years, some of them coinciding with major policy announcements by the federal government and industries under his congressional oversight. Newly installed president of Maldives is rejecting calls for a new election following last week's coup. Mohammed Wahid Hussein Manik replaced Mohammed Nasheed last week after Nasheed described as an armed coup. Nasheed was the first democratically elected president of Maldives on Sunday. Wahid said now was not the time for a new election and said, "I don't agree that there is a need to go for a snap election at the moment, and we are not ready for it. The country is deeply divided, and we have the political landscape has many potholes and deep rifts, and so these things have to be healed before we can actually have a meaningful, free, and fair election." Mohammed Nasheed said, "I'm always worried about being arrested and beaten up or tortured, but we have to do what we have to do. I think that the amount of people that are always around us and the support that we are getting is creating a situation where it is very difficult for the police to drag me out." And Peru has announced Comrade Artemio, the leader of the Shining Path, has been captured alive. The rebel leader was reportedly found badly wounded after a clash with troops in the remote jungle region. And that's it for World News today. Now we would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Friday, 10:05 a.m. A caller from Memorial Park reported tagging on tables. And 12:05 p.m., a caller from DiMartino Park reported possible drug activity involving 5 juveniles loitering with baggies. And 12:23 p.m., a woman from 400 block of Brunswick Road reported a person stole checks from her father's mailbox and cashed one. And 1:28 p.m., a caller from Mill Street reported a woman passed a bad check. At 1:31 p.m., a caller from 100 block of West Main Street reported a woman stole a skirt, which was recovered. She was cited on suspicion of shoplifting. 4:25 p.m., a caller from 200 block of East Main Street reported a drunken man causing a disturbance. He was later reported to be pounding his shoe on a door. He was arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public. 5:09 p.m., caller from 100 block of Neal Street reported the theft of a purse. And 8:46 p.m., a man from 400 block of Colfax Avenue reported he got out of his truck to urinate in a yard, and a man came at him with a gun. And Saturday, 2:53 a.m., burglary was reported by business 500 block of Sutton Way. 2 laptops, a notebook, a Nintendo DS, an Xbox Kinect, and a surveillance system was stolen. 8:49 a.m., a man reported a man tried to sell him marijuana at Gateway Park. At 9:57 a.m., a caller from Condon Park reported graffiti. At 12:50 p.m., a caller from Idaho Maryland Road reported a large group of juveniles possibly applying graffiti. At 1:50 p.m., a caller from 1100 block of East Main Street reported a lock and cables to a power box was cut. At 5:31 p.m., a caller from 300 block of East Main Street reported two people possibly vandalizing a property. Well, it looks a little more than two. 5:52 p.m., a caller from 400 block of Idaho Maryland Road reported a group of juveniles skateboarding on vacant property. And Sunday, 12:29 a.m., a caller from 300 block of Mill Street reported loud music. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Friday, 7:29 a.m. A caller from 15,000 block of Digger Hill Way reported a possible phone scam. 8:34 a.m., a caller from 23,000 block of Patino Road reported possible animal neglect. At 9:18 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Cary Drive reported a man hadn't slept in weeks, was only drinking raw milk and eating nuts, and has not acted like himself. A welfare check was done. At 10:19 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Spenceville Road reported a mole bite. Gotta watch out for those moles. 12:04 p.m., a caller from 19,000 block of Chaparral Circle reported a burglary. And at 12:07 p.m., a woman from 19,000 block of Frails Trail reported her family was throwing her belongings away. She was arrested on suspicion of being under the influence of a controlled substance. 1:34 p.m., a woman from 10,000 block of Cone Tree Trail reported a call from a man pretending to be her grandson in Mexico. She did not send money. At 1:47 p.m., a caller from 14,000 block of Stoddard Estates Lane reported a possible attempt break-in through a sliding glass door. At 3:15 p.m., a caller from Lakeshore North reported 25 to 30 juveniles in a park for a fight. Security was responding. At 8:40 p.m., a caller from Clover Valley and Fay Roads reported possible drug activities. At 10:56 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Weeping Willow Way reported hearing gunshots. Saturday, 2:44 a.m., multiple callers from Highway 20 and Pleasant Valley Road reported 10 cows in the road. At 12:13 p.m., a caller from McBoyle Way and Brunswick Road reported trespasser, who then ran. At 12:18 p.m., a woman from 13,000 block of Capitol Drive reported a man at her door saying his life was in danger. At 1:14 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Butler Road reported a cat shot with a pellet gun. At 1:56 p.m., a caller from 21,000 block of Yuba Road reported the theft of an Xbox and iPod from a residence. At 2:29 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block of Country Heights Drive reported a burglary. 4:41 p.m., a caller from emergency room requested assistance with a combative inmate who bit someone. The Nevada City Police Department on Friday, 4:23 p.m., caller from 500 block of Highway 49 reported a couple having intercourse in a recycling bin. They could not be located. At 6:21 p.m., a caller from 400 block of Nimrod Street reported hearing a woman screaming who could not be located. At 6:58 p.m., a caller from 500 block of Nimrod Street reported hearing a gunshot. And Saturday, 8:55 p.m., a man from 200 block of Commercial Street reported an assault. And Sunday, 1:42 a.m., a caller from 300 block of Broad Street reported a fight. A man and a woman were arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public and resisting arrest. At 3:09 a.m., a caller from 400 block of Factory Street reported a possible prowler. And that's it for the Police Blotter today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In local news headlines, Nevada City woman arrested after accident, and warrant issued after suspect fails to report for drug test. And driver arrested after knocking down power lines and fleeing scene. And recall of McManus to move forward. In today's first local story, a Nevada City woman was arrested on drug charges after being involved in a traffic accident in Grass Valley Saturday. Accident was reported at about 2:45 p.m. at East Main Street and Dorsey Drive, according to dispatch reports. When Grass Valley police officers arrived, they found Tulare Jean Collin, 23, to be under the influence and possession of a number of drugs for sale, said Sergeant Joe Mattioni. She allegedly had between 5 and 6 grams of methamphetamine, several grams of hallucinogenic mushrooms, more than 1 ounce of marijuana, and a cutting agent for meth, as well as scales and baggies. Collins was arrested on suspicion of possessing controlled substance for sale, driving under the influence, being under the influence of a controlled substance, possessing controlled substances, and drug paraphernalia. She was booked into county jail and released on a $38,404 bail. In a story written by Liz Keller of the Union, a bench warrant was issued for Rough and Ready man after he failed to report for a drug test ordered by a judge during his court hearing. Leslie Edward Schofield was appearing on 2 separate cases in Nevada County Superior Court on Monday, one involving domestic violence and the other on charges of possession of marijuana for sale and cultivation for sale. Prosecutor Katie Francis told the judge she had information that Schofield had been using methamphetamine over the weekend and asked that he be tested pursuant to his probation terms. Schofield was unable to comply with testing at the courthouse and was told to report to the probation department for the test. He never showed up. However, said Deputy District Attorney Jim Phillips, Schofield also failed to appear in court Thursday when he was set for a preliminary hearing into the evidence on a third case, this one involving possession of marijuana for sale. He currently has $110,000 in outstanding warrants, Phillips said. In other court news, a judge denied release of her on her own recognizance of a Nevada City teenager arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence in a head-on crash. Gina Sauter, 18, was driving at a high rate of speed in Loma Rica Drive near the airport Tuesday when she crossed over the double yellow line and hit Michelle Land, 52. Sauter's bail was set at $25,360 and her arraignment was set for yesterday morning. Jonathan Danley's sentencing was postponed and he was remanded to custody after he failed to report for probation for his pre-sentencing report. Danley had pleaded no contest to unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Girl allegedly was under the influence of alcohol at the time of the incident. New bail was set at $75,000 and the sentencing was rescheduled for March 8th. And Charles Tabor Whittlesley pleaded no contest to misdemeanor count of battery on a cohabitant on Thursday. Whittlesey was arrested last month for punching his girlfriend during an argument after he allegedly tried to use her credit card to buy a male enhancement drug. He was sentenced to 60 days in county jail and 10 days in credit. He also is not in possession of any firearms, not to have in possession of any firearms. And Shane Thelander Alvarez pled no contest to maintaining a place for use of controlled substances on Thursday. Alvarez was arrested in September after setting up a pot-buy with a Nevada County probation officer who dialed his number by mistake. He allegedly arranged a deal for $100 worth of marijuana, but only half an ounce of pot. Alvarez allegedly told the undercover deputy his buddy was going to show up with the other half. Nicholas James Lockhart, 22, allegedly came to the gas station with the other half of the marijuana and also was arrested. Alvarez was sentenced to 45 days in jail with 8 days credit. Will be allowed to do work release. He also was sentenced to 3 years probation with search and seizure terms. He will be allowed the use of medical marijuana in conformance with the Nevada County guidelines and at discretion of the probation department. The case against Lockhart was dismissed. In another Liz Keller story, a Grass Valley man was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence after he allegedly crashed into a power pole, knocking lines down, and then fled the scene. Stephen John Zimmerman, 59, was driving southbound on Highway 174 near Pine Hill Drive at about 1 a.m. Saturday when he allowed his Subaru Outback to drift off the road, according to California Highway Patrol report. The Outback hit a PG&E utility pole and continued off the road, striking several parked trailers and crashed through a carport on the side of a residence. Power lines were severed when the Outback hit the power pole and live wires fell into the roadway, starting a fire. CHP officer was on the scene less than a minute after the accident, found Subaru off the road and Zimmerman seated inside, according to the report. Officer immediately closed the road due to the live wires and then began walking back to the Subaru, but Zimmerman allegedly then fled south on Highway 174. CHP officers were able to locate Zimmerman at his residence at 14,000 block of Highland Drive by following the trail of debris on the road from his severely disabled Subaru, which was missing the right front tire. He was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence and leaving the scene of the accident, was booked and released in $2,484 bail. Highway 174 was blocked for about an hour. PG&E personnel worked to secure live power lines. Other agencies involved in the incident were Grass Valley Police, Nevada County Sheriffs, and Ophir Hill and Pearsdale Chicago Park Fire Departments. In our last Liz Keller story, Nevada County Superior Court Judge Julie McManus was served Friday afternoon with a notice of intent to circulate a recall petition against her. The proposed recall stems from McManus's continued absence from the bench, even though she has filed for disability retirement from the state. She has been on medical leave since March 3, 2011. Notice of intent to circulate a recall petition points out that McManus' absence has cost the state more than $125,000 since her seat formerly in the family court is filled by the state's assigned judge program, which is staffed by retired judges at a cost of $715.15 per day. While the cost has been steep, many family court professionals and litigants are relieved that McManus disappeared, the notice reads. McManus is widely considered to be an angry, unpredictable judge. The simple truth is that McManus cannot be allowed to return to the bench. The needs for the recall is clear. Nevada County citizens deserve better. That was the quote out of there. McManus was appointed in December 2005 and ran unopposed in June 2008. Her term expired in 2014. Prior to her appointment to the bench, she was a deputy district attorney for 15 years, handling cases involving child sexual and physical abuse and child homicide, and served as deputy counsel for 5 years, representing Child Protective Services. And that's it for local news today. Now we'd like to thank we'd like the Union and Amy Goodman, Reuters, Associated Press, and others for the news, and you for watching. Don't forget, we're broadcast on NCTV, Comcast Cable, Channel 11 in Nevada County, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m., Mondays to Fridays, 7 8, 16 in Truckee and Alta Sierra. And we're streamed on GVTV.org and NevadaCountyTV.org, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Should be Wednesday.